I'm Sarah, and I'm actually a curriculum redefined lecturer at the University of Leeds. And I wanted to share a couple of projects I've been working on in my school, which is a School of Healthcare, in how to use PebblePad to help with those approaches and pieces of work that don't have any credit-bearing components. So, essentially no assessment stick, and I've got my co-pilot image there too, and I think I thought of it first, Ben. I'd like to take credit for that. Firstly, I've got two projects anyway that I worked on. So one is sort of in the spirit of curriculum redefined. So as Jeff kind of mentioned, some of the schools are further ahead than others in terms of how they're embracing meaningful structural change, but I've been tinkering in the spaces where I can. And so in our nursing programme, I looked at biology and another project called Castle, which I'll come on to in a minute. So in the School of Healthcare, we have 3 undergraduate and 3 postgraduate programmes. So I'm mostly focusing in the undergraduate workspace, although I'd like to note that all 6 of our programmes are now using PebblePad since I joined a year and a half ago, so yay. And our nursing programme, we cover 3 of the fields, so that's child, adult and mental health. And many of you will know just how intense the nursing student education work is. Okay, right, I'm now running behind. So we have a biology theme which runs through our nursing programme for all 3 of the fields. And because we have a spiral curriculum, there's no dedicated biology module, which means there's no dedicated biology assessment. So we allow our students to engage with the content through self-directed learning. Okay, some information. I'll come back to that. Shane, is it possible to go back a slide? Can we break the rules? Oh, okay. So we do have touch points where we speak to the students about it, but essentially it is self-directed, and that's made very clear at the beginning of the module. Some interesting stuff happening here. So I will just say, like many students, they'll be looking at the self-directed learning and thinking, is this going to be actually assessed? And the answer is no. And so we find that there's a lack of consistency in how students engage with that content, unsurprisingly. There were several reasons why I wanted to bring PebblePad into this space, because the content already existed in the form of a PDF developed program, which is quite flat and undynamic. But it had got the design element had gone into it. No, the one afterwards now, thank you. Biology became the clear solution, and there were lots of reasons why this was going to work. So I mentioned that we have a spiral curriculum in our nursing programme. And before my time, 5-6 years ago, whenever that happened, they basically didn't add any workload in for our biology team to be able to manage the learning of biology topic. And it meant that there isn't really any space or any time for anyone to engage with the students as they're going through the learning. Well, PebblePad's got some really great features. So first of all, it's super easy. I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted, but welcome to all the new customers of PebblePad. It's so easy to build content in PebblePad, and using the structured workbooks just gives you that extra clear scaffold about how you can structure that learning journey and experience for the students. So it was nice to be able to take something from, I'm just not going to look there anymore. It was nice to be able to take stuff from a PDF and put it into very dynamic, colourful, interactive workbooks. And on the next page, it just goes on to say how easy that is, and then the next page after that, where we should be up to, probably should have finished by now, is very media rich, which you probably all know. So obviously there were lots of activities built into this paper-based experience the students had before. So we were able to look at the range of interaction blocks inside the workbook. And also by doing this, it gave us a hook to be able to report on towards the end of the programme. And monitoring engagement, I think, is the single biggest reason I persuaded the team to look at PebblePad. Because they don't have any workloaded time, a few clicks of a mouse periodically gives you a very clear picture of which students are with you and which aren't. And so I worked with the biology lead to be able to target gentle communications of the students who hadn't even downloaded the workbook. So it was really helpful insight for them, for the team, and gives us some data to work with, because what they're noticing is when it comes to the synoptic assessments, which are fed into the rest of the nursing programme, sorry, that was me, then at least they can understand what the picture is like of student engagement. From the student perspective as well, there were lots of benefits for them, sort of moving from the lack of dynamism in a PDF into a dynamic workbook. They were able to work through at their own pace, and they were able to track their own progress, which is a nice feature. We built in a space for them to be able to make notes, so that if they chose to use PebblePad to sort of create all of that learning and understanding, then we gave them a space to build in. And also, we were able to deliver the answers to last week's activities when we dropped the next week's, or made available the next week's content. And I think that that just kept it moving through the semester and gave them a structure that was easy for them to keep up with on their days where they were given time to work through this stuff. So it's a process that we're evaluating. Obviously, there's a nice piece of scholarship work that will come out of this to see where the students have valued that interactive work. I already know, actually, from initial feedback that they didn't like the weekly drops. I thought that would really help them, but some of the feedback was they wanted everything up at the beginning so they could choose how fast they wanted to work through it. At least it's all already made now, so they can have it at the beginning of the year. But actually, we want to work with restructuring it because there's a lot to do. But that's one project. The second project, Castle, which is creating a safe space to learn, is an award-winning initiative, and it's a cohort-wide approach. So we wanted to target all of our incoming undergraduates because we have a bit of an issue in healthcare, and it's very sad that a lot of our students experience racism and bullying and harassment when they're out on placement, and it's something the NHS are picking up on now. And one of the initiatives that they have is the Freedom to Speak Up Guardians, and we liked it so much that we brought that into our faculty, so we have 2 of our own guardians. And as a team from the School of Healthcare, we worked with the guardians to create this concept that we're calling Castle. And there's us picking up our award. So a smaller group of us wrote a positioning paper to our school executive to say this is what we wanted to do. It's quite a serious issue that we've got, and we wanted to make a positive thing about helping our students to recognise what they should and certainly shouldn't be accepting. And we wanted to build it around in-person small group work so that we're breaking down any barriers to engagement. So we worked with the Freedom to Speak Up Guardians, and they created some case studies out of real-world issues that they'd faced, but clearly anonymised. And we built those into a workbook, so the students had some real content to work through in these small group discussions, and it gave the framework for that conversation. Obviously, I recommended PebblePad to them for the asynchronous digital resource that was going to be underpinning this whole process because it's spread out over the whole year. We just wanted the students to have a touch point that they could go back to. And we were also able to embed Check Your Understanding features through MS Forms and Padlet as well. Essentially, we were able to track that engagement. So there was 100% attendance on the first one because we intentionally put it into induction week. But by the second semester, we had a second session just before they went out onto placement. And you can see there that there was still over 50% of engagement with the process and with the content, which we thought was really successful. So just in summary, using Atlas, particularly in the whole PebblePad process, can really help with embedding those kind of approaches that don't have that credit-bearing requirement. So you can monitor engagement, you can target your communications to those students that maybe need a little bit of help in getting going, and it really helps with streamlining the feedback when you just don't have time workloaded into your model, because it just takes so few seconds to check where you're at with the engagement through the reporting. And here are my colleagues that I've worked with on these 2 projects, and do ask if you have any questions. Sorry about the tech show. That was rubbish, wasn't it? Thanks very much.